And I was actually surprised with the results. So people say what they're looking for in a culture is something that's described as fun or kind or empathetic. But the way that as business owners we describe culture, if you look at job ads, is performance-based, which is not
Yeah.
what employees are looking for. Like from an employee perspective, that reeks of, okay, you're going to like try and work me into the ground.
Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel, and today we have a very important topic which is on the minds of a lot of business owners, especially ones in Australia that I know, is on how to actually find good talent and keep them in this market. Even my own husband recently has said he's lost 2 staff. I'm not sure if he wants that way, or like, sometimes staff who leave, you're like, yay. But at the end of the day, I have been hearing that there are more and more staff who are leaving and it's really hard to find more staff. And so I brought on Kirton here, who is a good friend of mine, and she runs Amplify HR. And so we're gonna really deep dive in how we can actually recruit the best people in this tough market. So welcome, Karen.
Thanks, Lynn. Great to be with you today.
So Karen, you've probably been hearing a lot because you're in that market and you've got clients. Like, what are some of their complaints nowadays in this day and age?
Yeah, so we mostly work with companies of under 100 employees, but I'm hearing this across the board. It doesn't seem to matter what size you are. I had someone yesterday who he said they have 100 technicians, and he said if I could hire another 30 tomorrow, we would still have too much work, but they can't get 30. So, it's from technicians to IT, HR, marketing, finance, hospitality. If you've walked around the city lately, or my building's in Parramatta and there's cafes everywhere, they've all got signs saying we need people. So I guess the good news perhaps is that people aren't alone when they can't find great staff. Like, it is definitely an employees market at the moment, but it's really tough. So you've got to do things differently. You can't try and recruit the way that you did a month ago or a year ago or 3 years ago, because you are just in a sea of other employers that are looking for the same people. Yeah.
And why is that? What is happening?
I think there's a combination. So I think with the pandemic, a lot of people deferred their resignations. So rather than moving on, they thought, I don't know what's going to happen with the economy, and, at least better the devil you know, so I'll stay in my job. So, they've basically stayed in their current business longer than what they ordinarily would. So then what's happening is turnover in businesses is going up. People have left the workforce or just changed the way that they're working. So they've gone from full-time to part-time. They've gone into the gig economy. They've run their own businesses. So we've lost people that way. And we turned off the tap with immigration for 2 years. So we already had skills shortages, but that has really exacerbated it. And, and I think that in particular industries like hospitality, for example, because they were shut down for so long, people just left that industry altogether. It's the same with transport, particularly in Victoria. A lot of drivers left that industry and even that state, and there's no new people coming in. So it's just made things super, super difficult right now.
Yeah, all those reasons make a lot of sense. And so, when I spoke to you, I think a few months ago, I said, when it comes to not being able to retain staff, it's more than just recruit the right person. What was that about? Was that around the culture thing that you can elaborate as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that what people sometimes forget is that recruitment is a marketing exercise. So the same as you go to market for new customers and you say, this is what we're going to provide to you, and then you deliver on it. You need to do the same thing with employees. So we need to say, well, this is what our business is offering to the market. This is our employer brand. This is our value proposition. And then we're going to deliver on it. So that's got to be around the culture. I did some different polls recently, and I was actually surprised with the results. So people say what they're looking for in a culture is something that's described as fun or kind or empathetic. But the way that as business owners we describe culture, if you look at job ads, is performance-based, which is not what employees are looking for. Like from an employee perspective, that reeks of, okay, you're going to like try and work me into the ground. So I think, thinking about what is the type of culture that you have and what makes it different, and then being really clear with that, and then building everything that you need to maintain that culture. So, and smaller businesses can do this as well. You don't need to have, tons of money and huge budgets, but you do need to make sure that you're appreciating your people, you're showing recognition, you're giving flexibility, you're giving them development opportunities. All of these things are really highly valued by people. But at the end of the day, they say culture eats strategy for breakfast. Like, you've got to have the right culture and you've got to be working on it intentionally.
Yeah, you raise a really good point. It's not really just I mean, it's marketing, but it's not about saying that you're this, but it's really living that, embodying that. Otherwise, it's fake. It's not going to last. Another thing that I just thought about in terms of marketing is that because we're on social media everywhere as our organization, Outsourcing Angel, and I'm always out there, showing kindness and fun. We've been getting a lot of virtual assistants, obviously not local people, but virtual assistants who are like knocking on our doors going, I would love to work for you because you seem so fun, you seem so good. And so how important is that nowadays to build a brand as well, so that you're drawing people in who wants to work for you versus you having to, push it out and hoping someone would come to you?
Oh, yeah, it's hugely important. And, if I was a virtual assistant and I was watching Yelena, I'd be like, I want to work for her, because you're seeing someone in their authentic self and, you're genuine and you're fun and you're kind and you're really generous to people. And so why would I not want to work for you versus a company that has no or very little social media presence and it's just very boring and vanilla and, so that's not going to attract me in. So I think there's a happy medium with social media. You don't want to do too much on social media looking for candidates because then it might whiff of desperation. But I think people do forget that is a way to get candidates, and you should be, putting in your social media calendar what jobs you have available or how people can just get in touch if they want to work for you, so that they know that, that avenue is available to them, because it's a great way to get people who are already advocates for your business and understand your business to say, yep, I want to work for you. And then that saves you so much time down the track when you're ready to hire.
Yeah, because often on our marketing, we're just so focused on clients, but we forget that teamwork makes dreams work. But I also realize that being authentic and showing who you are kills two birds with one stone. Clients like you because you're more authentic, but so does employees. So thanks for that. Now, you've got an amazing article on the 8 ways to actually recruit in this tough market. So, and people, you can always go on her website. She's got a lot of great article and information. But yeah, run us through some of the key things that you shared in that article, Karen.
Yeah, so I think one of them is being realistic about the job and potentially redesigning it. So, I had a chat with a business owner yesterday who went to market for a role about 2 months ago and wasn't successful. And so then we were talking through, well, why is that? Because I think sometimes we're just coming at it from our point of view and saying, well, in my business, I need X, Y, Z. But maybe that's just not in the market. So, and, as you would know as a business owner, Lynn, you can teach people skills. You can teach them how to use computer programs. What you can't really teach, or it takes a long time, is behaviors. So if you've got someone that's got the right values and the behaviors, you can teach them the other stuff. So sometimes it's actually just being, a little bit more flexible and realistic with the role that you're looking for, and making sure that you're recruiting with that, values and behaviors in mind. And what can I actually, teach in terms of the skills? Because you're going to end up with a better person in the long term.
Yeah, I love that idea, because I kind of didn't intend to do that way, but I feel so much more confident in hiring someone that I kind of know or have seen their work through some other disciplines or other industry. But I knew that their quality showed them that they have the potential to learn this new thing, but I just knew that their heart's in the right place. And I know that they'll, respect and treasure me the way I would treasure them. And that has been the best strategy for me, because it's just long lasting and loyal versus, in the past where I have found someone that had all the skill set. They talked good at the interview, but there were nothing to show in real life. So
yeah, and if they're giving you that type of behavior, that's how they're going to treat your clients as well, so that your clients are in good hands as well, which is great. I think another thing that people forget about, which is close to your heart, is outsourcing.
What is that? Tell me more.
And it still surprises me how many business owners don't realize what they can outsource, and they just assume, oh, I need a bookkeeper, or, I need an admin assistant, or I need someone to do my social media. I need a finance person or an HR person or a salesperson. Actually, maybe you don't. Like, there are lots of really great outsourcing companies out there. Obviously, Outsourcing the angel and that can help with these things. And then that just gives you a lot more flexibility. It can give you someone that's much more skilled. And perhaps as you have those ebbs and flows with your business, you're then not carrying a full-time or a part-time headcount. You've got that relationship with that outsourced organization. So I think that's a really important first step as well, along with that redesigning the role, is actually, well, do we need the role?
Yeah, and when it comes to offshoring, I think one of the key worries, even my own husband, who I could not explain how that it works and it's good. He's like, oh, but it won't work for my industry. So with outsourcing, people always worry about how would they fit in with my culture, because they're from overseas, So I know you've got a virtual assistant yourself. What's your feedback so far that you've worked with one in terms, and what would you say to someone that's worrying like that?
You just have to do it. Because I think, the more that you procrastinate, then the more things aren't getting done. So, you need to just take the step and do it. And if you have decided to outsource, or that seems to be the better option for you, then that comes back to, okay, well, what do I need from that person? And particularly, like you said, fitting into that culture. So what are the values and behaviors that are really important, and how do we test for that? I think, offshoring has an extra complexity, and that's where it is good to use organizations like yours that, have that system already set up. So you already know, well, this is how we can, hire people in those areas and how we can pay them, and, take all that complexity out of it. But, it's no different to hiring locally. It's just got, some slightly different angles to it. That's all. Yeah.
Yeah. And I love outsourcing in a sense where you've got access to the global market in a sense. And even for ourselves, we don't just recruit, we don't have an office in the Philippines. It means that we can recruit anyone in the Philippines. So it already gives us a bigger pool. And I think with this tougher market, we just need to have a bigger pool of being able to access more resources.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially when people are saying they can't find someone in Australia. I don't know how many times I've heard that recently. There's just no one here. And I'm having clients offshore for the first time that they've never done it before, but they just, if they want to be able to deliver, that's what they have to do.
Yeah. And once you do it, because you have to, you realize, wow, I should have done this earlier. I always have a metaphor around something like outsourcing is like when people tell you to get an air fryer, you're like, why? Because I have an oven. I know how an oven works. And then when you buy it, you're like, oh my God, it's so much cheaper, quicker and small and compact, and it does the work. And I think that's what I hope for others as well, just giving that a go, especially when it's not like, you're stuck with it. And that's the beauty of it, right? I know for a fact, my husband runs a typical business in Australia. It's so hard to also even let go of staff that aren't performing. And there's just so much rules around that. So
yeah, exactly. So that's why you've just got to be so, like, you've really got to, the old saying, you've got to hire slowly and fire quickly. And, and people usually do it the opposite way. So they hire really fast, and then they think, oh, no, I'll give that person an extra chance. No, and 3 years down the track, that person's still there, and, they're annoying all their team workers because they're not pulling their weight. So getting that process right, whether you're hiring locally or, overseas, is so important to make sure that you're getting the right person in the door to start off with.
Yeah. Awesome, Karen. So tell us another tip.
So another tip I think that people forget is actually reaching out to past candidates. Because maybe you advertised this job a year or 2 or 3 years ago, and maybe there were people back then that seemed like really nice people, but they just didn't have enough experience. Well, maybe they've got the experience now. So, so I think people forget about that, and they just think, oh, well, if we didn't hire them last time, then we don't need them. But people change, businesses change. So, in platforms like Seek, it's pretty easy just to send a bulk email out to people, and you can just say, hey, we've got this new opportunity. If you're interested, get in touch. So, there's plenty of options out there to go back to those prior candidates. Yeah.
That's a really good one. Love it. Anything else, Karen? I think we should actually shout out all the tips now, because I actually think these are really, really cool. It's smaller to grasp, but really important. So share away.
Yeah, so I think that another one is your current employees. They're obviously always a great source of referrals. And sometimes people say to me, well, they should just be referring. Why do I need to give them an incentive to refer? Because, this is not what they're thinking about. This is important to you to get new staff. But from a staff member perspective, they're doing their job. It's not so important to them. But if you suddenly put, $500 or $1,000 or whatever it is and say, well, if you refer somebody and we hire them and we're going to give you that money, then that gives people motivation. So,
Yeah.
it's going to be much cheaper than hiring a recruitment agency as well.
Yeah, I love that idea because your own staff would know your culture, know what you're looking for, and know who's the right fit. And I still remember actually earning money from that kind of arrangement back in the days when I worked in a corporate organization, and they had a clear rule in their thing, and it was one of their strategies, and they kind of prefer that over the next strategy of going to the cold market. And it was really nice to receive that amount of money because it motivated you to kind of think about who else do you know that could suit the company.
Absolutely. You start going through, okay, well, who have I worked with before? Who have I seen as a networking group? Who's in my LinkedIn? If you have staff that have a lot of followers or connections on LinkedIn, you need to ask them to post your job ads. And the thing with LinkedIn is that as soon as you post something, you need to try and get as many people in your business as you can to also, like, comment and share on that post so that it gets, the most visibility possible. I think sometimes we think that, we just posted the ad and that's okay. It's like any social media. You've got to keep posting, you've got to keep reminding people, hey, this job's still here, or hey, do you want to work for
Nowadays,
us?
isn't it? It's like, yeah, back in the day, you think it's the other way around, but now it's hard to comprehend even as you're talking about it. I'm like, wow, you've got money ready to give to someone to work, and yet it's like, please come and take my money.
Where are you?
Well, talking about money, you had another point in your article around the sign-on bonus. Now, that was really interesting. So tell us more about that.
Yeah, so this is when you have people, and I guess this is getting into more specialized roles. So things, thinking like engineers, for example, very difficult to get. They tend to stay in their jobs for a few years. They don't move easily. So how do you give someone the motivation to actually go, okay, I'm going to leave that employer and go to a new one? And particularly if you're a small business, sometimes people feel like that's a risk to do that, because if it doesn't work out, if the economy changes, I won't get a redundancy. So one way to offset that and help incentivize is to do a sign-on bonus. So to say, well, if you come on, we're going to give you, X amount of money. So maybe it's a month's worth of salary. We'll give it to you up front. And then, if you perform and you're still with us at 3 months and at 6 months, and we'll give you another month and another month. Now, I know some people listening to this might think, well, they should just want to work for me and it should be nothing to do with the money. But, these are, sometimes we've got hesitant candidates, that people that they think, well, there's nothing wrong where I'm working. If it's not broken, don't fix it. Whereas if you can give them that little bit extra, and it also means for you, instead of having to increase the salary. So sometimes people get into salary wars. So let's say the person's on 100 grand, they say, well, I'll only move for 120. And then their employer says, well, now I'll give you 130. And then all of a sudden you're looking at 140. So at least this way, you're not adding it into that ongoing salary. It is a bonus. So it's not that ongoing cost to the business. But it also gives the employee as well quite a boost. So they think, oh, I'm important enough that they want to pay me to come and work for them. How cool is that?
That is so cool. It is.
Just don't forget about your existing employees. So if you're doing sign-on bonuses, then you need to actually have a look at what's the bonus and incentive process you have for your existing employees, so they don't feel like, well, hang on, you're not valuing me, you're only valuing the new people coming in. So it does take a little bit of thought.
Yeah. Well, there's plenty more tips on your website, so I'll leave it for people to check it out. But tell me more about your service. So, someone like my husband, I was like, you need to talk to Karen. I just feel like as a business owner, you're just so busy. You've got all these staffs, and it's, the people game isn't for everybody. Even though you're a business owner, you came up with the idea and you like to make money and run a company. But I think the people part is just really, really hard. So what do you do for clients? Like, when do they come to you for help?
Yeah, so we generally work with clients that are under 100 employees, because that's when they don't have their own internal HR. And it's essentially to, get the HR house in order, if you like. So it's from a compliance perspective. So what do we need to have in place in terms of policies and contracts of employment and training and, the important stuff that basically stops a business owner from being fined. Those things are important. But they also help to set your culture, because the more consistency you have and the more equitable you are with your processes, then the better your culture is going to be. So we also help to build all of those processes. So, this is how you recruit, this is how you do rewards and recognition, your benefits, the whole employee life cycle. And if you can do that earlier on in the business, sometimes we think about cash flow and technology and marketing and sales. And we just think, oh, well, when we get big enough, well, I'll just hire those people that I need and, it'll be fine. And then you get big enough and you go to hire the people that you need and you can't because you haven't got any of those things in place. So it's better to do this when you're starting to go on that growth journey to say, okay, we have all of this in place, then it's scalable. So as we start to grow our business and we get more people, it becomes more complex, we have these in place already, rather than that, constant spiral of hiring and training and grievances and someone knocking on my door because they need that salary increase and I don't know, how to answer them. So it's trying to just get that consistency from a people perspective across the businesses.
Yeah, I love it. So what got you into this business in the first place? Was there anything that you went through that made you motivated to do something like this for other people?
Yeah, so I think when I was one of those people that when I went through school, I had no idea what I wanted to do. And I did lots of things. I did sales and I did debt collecting and I did admin and
wow, debt collecting.
Yeah. Terrible job. Kudos to everyone that can do that. It's very emotionally draining. But got to the late 90s, so when the internet was new and fresh, and I started to actually do website development.
No way, you did?
Yeah, I did. And I thought that was going to be my career. I thought I'd go into technology. And so that's when I went to university. I did a Bachelor of Business and I actually signed up for marketing and IT. And then I was doing university part-time. And so I started working full-time for a company that had their first HR manager. And he said, hey, can you help me out with some things? And so that was the first time that I actually got to see what HR actually is, because my previous experiences were, the Department of No, the policy police, just like, don't go and talk to them, they're scary people. Whereas at this business, it was actually no, like if you can invest in your people, then that is going to help your business to grow. So I actually changed my degree into marketing and HR, and that's how I started my HR career. I went on and did a graduate diploma in psychology because I'm just fascinated with how, people think. And I think for me, it was just, HR and investing in your people and culture in your business just allows you to give people fulfilling work lives, which then goes out into their personal lives. So, if you've got someone coming home every day who loves their job, that's happy to be there, is feeling fulfilled, is being paid the right amount of money, then they're going to be a great mother, father, sister, brother, friend, neighbor, and the opposite is also true. So that's what's really important to me, is that we're creating workplaces that actually help us as a society as a whole to be better people and to be better to each other.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, and that's why I love the outsourcing agency as well, because technically we're a HR, and I just feel like we can really make this world a better place if we become great leaders, helping other business owners to be great leaders and build a great company. So, well, thank you so much, Karen, for your time today. Do check out her website, and she's available across all different platforms, social media platforms such as LinkedIn. Where else are you hanging? Karen?
We've gone into Instagram. I feel like the young person these days, even though I know it's probably not so much anymore, but yeah, we're at Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Karen.
Thank you. Great to see you again.